fear is holding way too many people back from living the life that they want. I mean, so many of us, we rationalize these excuses as to why we won't take action, or we believe what our minds tell us. But no matter what the psychology or the thought process behind it, the result's the same. It's this constant back and forth dance of a desire to do something and not taking action. But what if life could be lived without fear? What if we could just surpass it and overcome and do all the things that we wanted to do? Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, there are people every day around us that are doing this. We've got athletes that are pushing the limits of nature, of their body, of the limits that they can push, both of those to the extreme at the risk of breaking bones or dying or all sorts of other things. You've got businessmen and women that are shaping the way that we live our lives, all at the risk of financial ruin, all at the risk of being judged, losing their friends. We've got doctors around us that are making these huge medical breakthroughs with the risk of using unorthodox procedures. And as a result, they're making our lives better, but the risk is that they're going to get judged, they're going to lose their license, they're going to lose everything. And then there's the everyday heroes that are all around us that are putting others' well-beings before them. So if there are people today that are living life without fear, how can it happen that others are held back by fear? And that raises the question of what fear is anyway. So I like stories. And the best example I can think of as far as how fear works is think about when we were learning how to drive. If you were like me, you were terrified when you started to drive. You had the wheel that you had to turn, you had the pedals that you had to press, you had the blinkers, the windshield wipers, and the blinkers and the windshield wipers would often get confused, and one would go on when you wanted the other one to go on. All of this stuff had to be done in a right order at the right time to get you from where you are to where you want to be. But now that we know how to drive, are we scared of driving anymore? Chances are not. But that begs the question, how is it that fear is before and sometimes during, but not after? And that question, what I didn't realize at the time was that question was actually giving me the keys to living a life without fear. And I hope to share those with you right now. Because fear can only exist in our idea of the future. So if fear can only exist in our perception or expectation of the future, then we have to ask why it's doing this. And the reason is it's one of our oldest physiological tools to keep us safe. And when we were in a time of having to worry about being eaten by saber-toothed tigers and all the other crap that we don't have to worry about anymore, this tool was very, very valuable. But now, fear really doesn't do much except keep us where we are. It doesn't allow us to thrive, it keeps us where we are. And the reason for this is because to our minds, where we are right now is a known safety thing. We're safe right here. But anywhere and anything outside of our known little bubble, it default thinks it's going to be bad for us. Which is why when we're trying something new, when we're making any change, we're actually fighting our physiology. And while nature gave us this gift to keep us alive, it also gave us this amazing and powerful way to overcome it. And that is called conditioning. Now, in psychology, they call it something like the competence-confidence loop. And you'll hear people like NASA astronauts talk about it, how they can teach their mind to perceive the world upside down and how to operate in all of these scary situations to the point where they don't become scared. What we're going to talk about today is how to use this concept of conditioning to program our minds to not process things as fear. So in order to do this, the first thing that you need to do is you need to get crystal clear on what you're actually scared of. You can be scared of success. You can be scared of failure. You can be scared of pain, either physical or psychological. Any of these you can be scared of. But you'll find that those words are descriptive, and they really leave a lot of room for clarity as to what we're actually scared of. So a few years ago, I was ending a 12-month road trip around America, and I was running out of money fast. And what would happen is every time I'd go make a purchase, all these thoughts of fear would come in. But the fear was very specifically, I was scared of being broke, which was failure. And that being broke was I wasn't going to be able to enjoy my time with friends going out. I wasn't going to be able to eat well. And I wasn't going to be able to do all the other stuff that every dude wants to do, like be able to support themselves. And so I took this and I played with this for a little while. And you'll see in a little bit later in the next step that you can actually turn this into a game to overcome it. But right here, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are crystal clear about what your fear is. So if you're scared of success, what does success look like to you? And what is it about that that makes you fearful of it? Do you think that you're going to become so rich that you automatically become an asshole? Do you think you're going to lose your friends? Do you think people are going to hate you? Do you think whatever it may be, what does the fear of success manifest itself as for you? And do the same thing if you have the fear of failure or if you have the fear of pain. Whatever it is, you just want to get crystal clear on what that thing is that you're scared of. And once you're crystal clear, you can move on to the next step, which is the actual process of conditioning your mind to think otherwise. Now, again, our minds are very, very powerful, and we can do two things to condition our minds. First, we can use knowledge. Second, and probably the most impactful, is we can use action to overcome this fear. So let's look at knowledge and action in one example. Let's take a look at the fear of arachnophobia, the fear of spiders. This is super common, and I know for a long time, I got the heebie-jeebies about spiders. I mean, come on, how can something so small have the power to kill us when we can build mountains, build buildings, climb mountains, and then this little thing can bite us once and we die 20 minutes later? To me, that freaked me out. And so in my mind, I classified all spiders as bad. But then I took a look at some numbers. And it turns out that there are over 40,000 documented species of spiders in the world. 40,000. And that's about half, according to estimates, of how many spiders actually exist in the world. So 40,000. But how many of them are actually poisonous and harmful to us? Only 200. That's less than 0.5% of all spiders are actually something to be scared of. Those are the ones that can actually do us harm. And most of them aren't even deadly. So now we've got some knowledge. But what about when you walk through a spider web, right? Walking through a spider web used to give me the heebie-jeebies. But then I did some more research, and I found that of those spiders that are actually poisonous, their spider webs typically aren't the ones I was walking through. They're small. They tend to be dense. They tend to be in low corners, dark places, or bushes, the places that we typically don't walk or go anyway. And so that big spider web that I was walking through in the garden or in the park or whatever the case may be was nothing more than the run-of-the-mill, safe to me, garden spider. So how can I use this knowledge and now take action to train my mind not to associate spider webs with fear? And the process is pretty simple, and you can actually turn it into the game like I was talking about with money. But for this, what I did was every time I saw a spider web, I walked through it. And every time I went through it, I got the heebie-jeebies at first. And little by little, it's like, it was a spider web. Eventually, I trained my mind to realize that no bad was going to happen. It's just a weird feeling, and it'll pass momentarily. But I conditioned my mind by knowledge and action that spiders and spider webs aren't something that I have to realistically fear all of the time. And to go back to that example where I was scared of not being able to eat well, I turned it into a game. And at the time I was living in a motorhome, I was cruising around, I was having a great time, but I was running out of money fast. And so what I did, even though I didn't need to, was I turned my everyday lifestyle into a game. How could I live on $30 of groceries a week? And what I learned was actually it wasn't that hard. Two, I actually ate better because instead of having to, eat junk food all the time, which is actually really expensive, I was eating really healthy. I was eating things like soups with vegetables, pasta, chicken, eggs. And these things are actually really good for you in moderation, obviously, as well as they're really inexpensive. So two things happen. Not only did a month later I not care about not being able to eat well because I knew how little I could live on, but I also saved a bunch of money in the process. So a double whammy. Not only did I reduce my need to be scared, but I also reduced the fear associated with running out of money because I now knew that I could eat well. So I had armed myself with both knowledge and action. And in the process, I reconditioned my mind to process fear differently. So the trick to conditioning is you want to give yourself many exposures over time to whatever it is that you're fearful of. And so you can do this with knowledge and you can do this with action. I like to read books. If there's something that I'm scared of, I'll plow through a book of, skydiving, for example. And in there, they undoubtedly have all the facts about how many people get hurt and how many blah, blah, blah. And you realize the odds are pretty small. But so you can use either knowledge or you can take action. So with skydiving, for example, not only did I read a book, but a month later I jumped out of a plane and I'm still here today. There obviously wasn't much risk in that for me. But what you want to do is you want to use knowledge and actions to recondition your mind so that over time, fear isn't triggered when these things come up. And eventually you'll be able to live a life without fear. Because our minds are ridiculously, ridiculously, ridiculously powerful. But we have to know that we control them. And that if we're listening to our minds, we're not in control. And if we tell our minds what to think, we take that control back and we can do amazing things in this world, like live without fear and achieve our dreams. So today, I hope you move on. I hope this added value to you. And I hope you have a great rest of the day and you can do what you love and live your dreams. Until next time, cheers.